The House will come to order. Members will be at their seats. The clerk has opened the roll and you may record your presence. Please rise and give your attention to our House chaplain, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Representative Brunk.
Good morning, friends. Allow me to pray for you. Father, thank you for your faithfulness in keeping each one gathered in this chamber healthy during this season of heightened physical sicknesses. Today is a new day of fresh challenges. I pray your wisdom to prevail even in times when it's easier to ignore or even sidestep your clear directions. I pray you might give each representative concise insight into what is good and best for the people of Kansas. Your word proclaims the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogance, and the evil way. O Lord, deliver us from the trap of falling prey at times to our own hubris. I pray you would help each representative to treat their colleagues in the same manner as they themselves wish to be treated. Where forgiveness should rule, give courage and boldness to that end. Bless our families and loved ones and keep each one healthy. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands, nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Has every member had an opportunity to record their presence? The clerk will close the roll and record the attendance. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 2767 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, requested by Representative Wilcott on behalf of Representative Croft, an act concerning veterans and military. HB 2768 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, requested by Howell, Howerton, and others, an act concerning the Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. HB 2769 by Committee on Taxation, requested by Representative Kahar, an act concerning property taxation. And HB 2770 by Committee on Appropriations, requested by Representative Helgerson, an act concerning the Healthcare Stabilization Fund.
Messages from the Senate. The clerk will read.
The Senate non-concurs in House amendments to SB 254, requested conference, and has appointed Senators Thompson, Blue, and Fausto as conferees on the part of the Senate.
Speaker recognizes Majority Leader Croft for a motion to accede.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate did not concur on House amendments on Senate Bill 254 and requested a conference. I move the House accede to the request of the Senate and that a conference committee be appointed.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion passes. As conferees on the part of the House, the Speaker appoints Representatives Kessler, Schmoy, and Meyer. Introduction of original motions and House resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Resolution Number 6029 by Representative A. Smith, a resolution recognizing and proclaiming February 6, 2026 as Ronald Reagan Day. Whereas President Ronald Wilson Reagan, a man of humble beginnings, devoted his life to advancing freedom and serving the public good, having worked as a radio host, entertainer, union leader, corporate spokesman, governor of California, and president of the United States of America. And whereas Ronald Reagan served with honor and distinction for 2 terms as the 40th president of the United States, and whereas in his reelection campaign, President Reagan earned the confidence of an unprecedented 3/5 of the American electorate and carried 49 of the 50 states, a record unsurpassed in presidential history. And whereas upon assuming office in 1981, President Reagan inherited a nation burdened by skyrocketing inflation, massive unemployment, and widespread economic uncertainty. And whereas during his presidency, Ronald Reagan worked in a bipartisan manner to cut taxes and restore accountability and common sense to government, resulting in a sustained period of economic expansion and increased opportunity for millions of Americans. And whereas President Reagan championed policies that strengthened families, supported children, and contributed to reductions in crime and drug use in communities across the nation. And whereas President Reagan's vision of peace through strength played a decisive role in ending the Cold War and contributed to the peaceful collapse of the Soviet Union, expanding liberty and basic human rights for millions around the world. And whereas Ronald Reagan was born on February 6, 1911, and his legacy continues to influence public policy, civic leadership, and the cause of freedom in the United States and beyond. Now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the State of Kansas that February 6, 2026 is hereby recognized as Ronald Reagan Day, and be it further resolved that the members of the House of Representatives of the State of Kansas shall encourage the citizens of this state to observe this day by reflecting upon the life, leadership, and enduring legacy of President Ronald Reagan. And be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the House of Representatives shall send an enrolled copy of this resolution to Representative Adam Smith.
On House Resolution 6029, the Speaker recognizes Representative Adam Smith for a motion to adopt the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is truly my honor to present H.R. 6029 for your consideration today, designating February 6th, 2026 as Ronald Reagan Day in Kansas. I'm fully aware that that day has passed, but we were pro forma. So President Reagan was the first national elected official that I remember learning about in the news. I was 5 years old when he first took office. If you remember, I remember seeing the television stories of the assassination attempt just a couple of months into office in March of 1981. I also remember watching the news story about 6 years after that when President Reagan was delivering a speech in West Berlin and a balloon popped. He paused his speech for a second and said, "Missed me." And then he continued on with his speech after applause and cheers for his humor and quick wit. One of the things I admire the most about President Reagan was his sense of humor. I believe a well-timed wisecrack in good nature can go a long ways toward de-escalating tense situations. A good sense of humor improves civil discourse and brings people together. And when people come together, good solutions have a better chance of moving forward. I would like to now reflect on a few of the memorable moments President Reagan had related to Kansas. In 1982, he visited Kansas State University and spoke at Ahern Fieldhouse as part of the Alfred Landon Lecture Series. His speech focused on agricultural support, government restraint, and economic freedom. Then in 1984, the second presidential debate against Walter Mondale was held in Kansas City, where he famously addressed a question about his advanced age by saying, "I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience." Lastly, an excerpt from President Reagan's personal diary from September 6, 1987. Landed at National Guard Field in Topeka, Kansas. Greeted by governor and mayor, and then off to Alf Landon's home. He has some difficulty hearing, but he is sharp as a tack. He will be 100 years old this Wednesday. Mr. Speaker, it's my honor to move the adoption of H.R. 6029, and I ask that my words be spread upon the journal.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Without objection, so ordered. Final action on bills and concurrent resolutions, the clerk will read.
House Bill 2433 by Representative Wassinger, an act concerning the regulation of water use, clarifying county authority over the transfer of appropriation of water, placing such authority with the chief engineer and water transfer hearing panel.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2433. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. This is final action. All members will be in their seats. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll and record the vote. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Speaker recognizes Representative Schmoy.
Thank you, Speaker. I empathize with Edwards County's concerns about the aquifer depletion and property disruption. The Kansas Supreme Court case must proceed without legislative interference on this. HB 2433 undermines local authority by preempting county zoning, permits, moratoriums, retroactively overriding local rules. This sets a dangerous precedent for state overreach, potentially impacting energy infrastructure like power lines, renewables, and data centers. Water is already state-owned, and the chief engineer holds authority. And this does not assert state rights, but reduces community input and non-domestic transfers. Local land use impacts require more community involvement, not less. For these reasons, I must vote my district no.
Is there any further explanation of votes? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Roser votes aye. Any further change of vote?
House.
Seeing 10 hands, call is in order. The doorman will close the doors, members will be at their seats, and the clerk will call the roll.
Delperdang, Gardner, Simmons, and Wynn.
Representative Simmons votes aye. Not seeing 10 hands, call is raised. Are there any further changes of vote? Seeing none, 116 voting in favor and 6 against the passage of House Bill 2433, the same having received a constitutional majority. The bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action on bills and concurrent resolutions, the clerk will read.
House Bill 2438 by Committee on Elections, an act concerning elections relating to voter registration, imposing restrictions on websites that can accept and transmit voter registration applications.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2438. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Estes votes aye. Representative Brantley votes aye. Representative Carlin votes no. Any further changes of vote? Seeing none, 86 having voted in favor and 36 against the passage of House Bill 2438, the same having received a constitutional majority. The bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action on bills and concurrent resolutions, the clerk will read.
House Bill 2467 by Committee on Transportation, an act concerning traffic regulations relating to failure to comply with a traffic citation, prohibiting past convictions or sanctions that are more than 5 years old from being considered by courts or the Division of Vehicles in determining suspended or restricted driving privileges, eliminating certain notice requirements for the Division of Vehicles related to suspended or restricted driver's license.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2467. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 122 voting in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2467, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action on bills and concurrent resolutions, clerk will read.
House Bill 2542 by Representative Long, Pishney, an act concerning roads and highways, designating a portion of United States Highway 56 as the Bill Tucker Memorial Highway.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2542. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Laura Williams votes aye. Representative Wilson votes aye. Any further changes of votes? Seeing none, 122 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2542, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action on bills and concurrent resolutions, clerk will read.
SCR 1615 by Senators Schallenberger, Alley, and others, a concurrent resolution honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk and recognizing October 14, 2026, and every October 14th thereafter as Charlie Kirk Free Speech Day.
This constitutes final action on Senate concurrent resolution 1615. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Speaker recognizes Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all deserve to live in a country free of gun violence. Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America advocates have been here asking for us to do something to make Kansas safer for years. While I mourn the loss of any victim of gun violence, I cannot support an official day for someone who spoke with such ugliness about women and people of color. If we cannot have a permanent day for Ruby Bridges, we cannot have a day for Mr. Kirk. I vote no on SCR 1650. Signed myself, Representative Weichel, Representative Haskins, Representative Poskin, Representative Susan Ruiz, and Representative Hoy.
Speaker recognizes Representative Schlingensieben.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before the death of Charlie Kirk, I did not know who he was. No one deserves to be killed for expressing their opinion. However, this bill is not about free speech. It draws a line in the sand that says you're either for us or against us. I refuse to participate in fanning the flames of division. In these tumultuous times, Kansans demand that we solve the problems that impact us all. Let's work together for the good of our state. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, no one should be subjected to violence of any kind for expressing political opinion. but no one should be praised, rewarded, or commended for supporting, encouraging, or spreading racism, bigotry, or misogyny. Representative Neighbor, Meyer, Melton, Brownlee Page, Ballard, Elger, O'Hobson, Carr, Martinez, Luis Ruiz, John Alcala, Pam Curtis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I vote no on SCR 1615. No one deserves to have their life ended by violence. However, not everyone deserves to be honored. I pity my colleagues who are so desperate for heroes that they have to settle for a man who espoused sexist and racist views. Charlie Kirk was a podcaster in his 30s whose claim to fame was debating recent children on college campuses. I have heroes like Virginia Roberts Giuffre, a woman who, despite the danger, stood up for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump. You deserve better heroes. I hope you find them.
Further explanation of votes. Speaker recognizes Representative Simmons.
Mr. Speaker, I vote no on SCR 1615. I cannot celebrate someone with such a callous attitude towards life and justice. He said, by the way, this is my other problem with the death penalty. It takes too many appeals. It should be quick. It should be public. It should be televised. I want to watch that execution. That'll make my day go better. You could have it brought to you by Coca-Cola. And no, I'm not kidding, by the way. I would totally tune in to see some pedo get their head chopped off. I think at a certain age, it's an initiation. Alex Simmons.
Speaker recognizes Representative Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I vote no to SCR 1615 because I'm neither a racist, a sexist, or a bigot. Neither do I suffer from homophobia or the cowardice that would force me to vote with a group of white supremacists only to appease a Kansas MAGA base, withholding to a congressional party who is not only failing this country, but my own constituency. It is for these reasons that I will never support a resolution of this kind. The world is watching those that do.
Speaker recognizes Representative Vaughn.
Mr. Speaker, I vote no on SCR 1615. Charlie Kirk may have advocated for free speech, but he used his speech to push bigoted, racist, and misogynistic views and incendiary rhetoric. This is the type of rhetoric that perpetuates political violence. If we want to end political violence, we need to condemn all political violence. If we want to end political violence, we should be resolving ourselves to improving the culture of politics and discourse in America. That starts with honoring the value, dignity, and equal rights of all Americans, not celebrating someone who used his platform to do the opposite.
Speaker recognizes Representative Carpenter Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We live in a moment where context no longer is inconvenient, it's disposable. Too often, people don't listen to what someone actually...
Hold on, Representative. There's no filming in the gallery. If you're filming, put your cameras down. Please proceed.
May I have 10 seconds back on the clock, Mr. Speaker?
You may.
People don't listen to what someone actually said. They listen to they listen for what they want it to mean. Charlie Kirk is an example of this pattern. A controversial statement made in a specific argument aimed at a specific individuals gets clipped, compressed, and repackaged into something broader and more explosive because outrage travels faster than accuracy. This isn't about defending every word he's ever said. It's about intellectual honesty. When we strip away context to prove a worldview we already hold, we stop persuading and start performing. We trade truth for confirmation, dialogue for dunking. And the cost is real. Trust erodes, polarization hardens, and serious debate becomes impossible. If we want a healthier public square, we have to do better, especially when we disagree. Listen fully, quote
Your
accurately.
time's up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Chuck Smith.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. When Charlie Kirk was shot, I had never heard of him before either. But then after his death, I saw quite a bit. And every time somebody asked him a question, he would set his microphone down and let them say anything they wanted. And this is about freedom of speech. And Charlie Kirk gave him that freedom of speech. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Sawyer Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I vote no on SCR 1615. In the wake of the terrible violence that took Charlie Kirk's life for using his freedom of speech, I saw a great deal of Kansans who went specifically against other Kansans who spoke against the things that Charlie stood for. People lost their jobs for using their freedom of speech in regards to his murder and the things that he said. People face political violence. I stand with those Kansans and their right of freedom of speech. And frankly, Charlie Kirk would not have appreciated that treatment either, which went very much against his principles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there further explanation of votes? Speaker recognizes Representative Christy Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I vote for SCR 1615 to honor a great and godly man whose life reflected courage, curiosity, and a commitment to open debate. He believed progress comes when citizens listen to one another and test ideas respectfully. Like all historical figures, accounts of his life contain wide inaccuracy, easily disproved with a little effort considering the thousands of hours of documented exchanges. My vote affirms Charlie's values of family, country, respectful dialogue, and free speech, and invites Kansans to study the full record with unbiased and honest eyes. I stand with Charlie and his legacy.
Further explanation of votes? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 187 voting in favor and 35 against. The passage of SCR 1615, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes Majority Leader Croft for a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House resolve itself into the committee whole for the purpose of considering those items under the heading of general orders.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. The Speaker appoints Representative Laura Williams to chair the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, Body. My voice is a little scratchy today for cheering on the Jayhawks, but it's always fun to beat the Wildcats in Allen Fieldhouse. So with that, the first item up for business is House Bill 2466. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2466, the chair recognizes Representative Bourgeon. Sorry, I'm new to this.
Testing. There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2466 comes to you from the House Commerce Committee, and it simply extends the sunset date of the angel investor tax credits from tax year 2026 to 2031. The credits provide investors with a 50% state income tax credit, up to 50% of the investment not to exceed $100,000 for qualified investments in Kansas businesses. We heard from 14 proponents in the Commerce Committee, including the Kansas Department of Commerce, who outlined the many benefits of the program, including that in 2024 alone, 28 companies received support, 4.8 million in tax credits were allocated, and 93 investors have deployed over 20 million in growth capital. The bill does set a cap of $8 million for the program. And with that, I would urge your support. I believe this bill gives access to capital for small and emerging businesses, and I think it's good for the Kansas economy. Madam Chair, I'd stand for questions.
To speak to the bill, the chair recognizes Representative Sawyer Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The carrier of the bill did a good job explaining it. Just wanted to give a little bit of history on this because that's kind of my thing. This initial policy was actually brought up in 2004. So those of you that were there, it was part of a huge economic development package that included the Kansas Bioscience Authority. That since sort of fell off with a previous governor that I don't like to mention. And it was extended again in 2016. You can look that up if you were here. That would have been House Sub SB 149, passed 100 to 21. And then it was extended again in 2021 as SB 66. So again, not everyone supported it at that time, but you might want to look up your past voting records in order to be consistent in your messaging on this matter. We had a lot of proponents of this, including the Kansas Commerce Department. So those of you who like to be in line with what the second floor supports, you may want to support this with the yes vote. Thank you.
To speak to the bill, the chair recognizes Representative Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I rise in support of this bill for the angel investment tax credits. That program, as you have heard, has allowed us to leverage a lot of additional financing. It's a critical tool for boosting early stage financing. It acts as a key valley of death financing source for Kansas startups. And it also enhances investor interest from outside our area and outside our region. But what I really want to do is I want to give you some real life examples of what this angel investment tax credit has done. So Greenfield Robotics, which is a Wichita-based company, it specializes in AI-driven regeneration farming robotics, and it used KITC to boost its early stage growth, and it eventually attracted significant investment from major national brands like Chipotle's Cultivate Next. Elias Animal Health, it's based in Olathe. They were able to raise $7 million in investment capital to develop a T-cell immunotherapy for cancer in companion animals. Singulet Therapeutics, it's a biopharmaceutical company which focuses on ADHD treatments that use the credit to support clinical development. So as you can see, this tax credit has benefited a lot of small startup companies across our state. It is a very important tool that our startups and our entrepreneurs use. And so I just wanted to give some real life examples of how that has helped us and how it has encouraged some additional investment in our Kansas startups and encourage your support. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative Bourgeon, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that when the committee rises and report House Bill 2466 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Bourgeon to report House Bill 2466 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. The next item up for business is House Bill 2487. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2487, the chair recognizes Representative Wilson.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I rise to introduce House Bill 2487, sponsored by the Kansas State Board of Regents, which addresses an important component of the Kansas Education Opportunity Scholarship Program. This program was designed to help strengthen our education workforce by providing scholarships to those who serve Kansas students. However, as the program has grown, questions have arisen about who qualifies as a teacher and who qualifies as a paraprofessional under the statute. House Bill 2487 provides clarity. It defines those terms explicitly in law so that eligibility for scholarships is consistent, transparent, and fair. Teachers and paraprofessionals are the backbone of our classrooms. Teachers lead instruction while paraprofessionals provide critical support for students with special needs, assist with classroom management, and help ensure individualized attention. Both roles are essential to student success and both deserve access to professional development opportunities. By passing this bill, we will remove ambiguity in the scholarship program's eligibility criteria, support workforce development by ensuring educators and support staff can pursue training and education without unnecessary barriers, and strengthens Kansas schools by investing in the people who make learning possible every day. This bill faced no opponents in the committee, and KBOR and other education agencies report no fiscal effects. Any additional administrative duties will be managed within the existing resources. This is a simple but meaningful step toward improving educational outcomes and supporting those who dedicate their careers to Kansas students. I urge your support for House Bill 2487. I will now stand for questions.
To speak to the bill, the chair recognizes Representative Droege.
Will the carrier of the bill please answer some questions? I understand this is your first year in the House. My question is, do you feel like you're a good replacement for the previous representative that represent District 70 that fled us to the Senate?
Yes, I think I'm a good representative to take his place. Scott Hill was the one that got me involved in politics in 2020, and I appreciate everything he's done to help me get here.
What prompted you to pursue this political direction?
Well, when a previous representative didn't vote for the boys and girls sports bill, I got involved.
Thank you for your answers, and I'd like to welcome you to the House of Representatives.
Thank you.
For further discussion, the chair recognizes Representative Stockstill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The carrier of the bill did an excellent and very detailed description of the bill and did a wonderful job, and I would urge your support for this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative Wilson, you may close.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports House Bill 2487 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Wilson to report House Bill 2487 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. The next item up for business is House Bill 2243. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2243, the chair recognizes Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here to carry House Bill 2243, and there was a committee amendment. I move the adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion to move the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. You may continue, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2243 requires the Secretary for Children and Families to collaborate with military organizations to address child abuse and neglect cases involving children of military personnel. The bill mandates the Secretary to refer such cases to military family advocacy programs, which are established by the U.S. Department of War to support military families. For those of you who are not familiar with the definition of a military family advocacy program, it means a program established by the United States Department of War and provided at a military installation to address child abuse and neglect in military families. There are 4 parts to the bill. The bill requires a referral process for the Secretary to refer cases involving children of military personnel to family advocacy programs. It requires the Secretary to accomplish a memorandum of understanding that will establish agreements with military installations in Kansas to outline case identification, referral processes, notification requirements, and confidentiality compliance. Those bases in Kansas, those active installations, are the United States Army garrison at Fort Riley, McConnell Air Force Base, United States Army garrison Fort Leavenworth, including Munson Army Health Center and the Kansas National Guard. The third requirement is to certify the military status of the parent or guardian of the child in question. And the child protection, the Secretary retains the authority to recommend a legal action to protect the child's welfare. There were numerous proponents for the bill, including a representative of the Department of War, Lieutenant Colonel Keith Marshall of the Kansas National Guard, Ashley Johnson from the Department of Children and Families, Mike Kelly, President and State Legislative Lead for the Military Officers Association of America, a private citizen, and an attorney. There were no opponents, no neutrals. The committee amendment on the bill amended the bill to change the language of installations versus organizations and addressing those military organizations. It clearly lists the military organizations in the bill, and as I described earlier. And at that point, I stand for questions, Madam Chair.
To speak to the bill, Representative Osman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The fine representative from Labette and Neosho County did an excellent job explaining the bill. The MOU is one that's been passed in about 40 other states, and it just puts us in line with what we need for the state of Kansas. So I urge your support for this bill. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative Goddard, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I would be remiss not to point out that we have a representative of the Department of War with us today. Would you just raise your hand over there? Thanks for being here. You know, children are our most important asset, and we have to make sure that every available resource is used to make sure that they're safe and secure. So with that, Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports House Bill 2243 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Goddard to report House Bill 2243 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. The next item up for business is House Bill 2533. For the purposes of carrying House Bill 2533, the chair recognizes Representative Steens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise before the body to present HB 2533, and it comes to us from our Health and Human Services Committee as amended.
Representative, do you want to make that motion?
I move the adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion to move the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. You may continue, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this comes to us from the House Committee on Health and Human Services, as I mentioned. It's enacting the Occupational Therapy Licensure Compact. The purpose of this compact would be to facilitate the interstate practice of occupational therapy with the goal of improving public access to occupational therapy services and achieving the number of objectives that reduce administrative burden while increasing availability of licensed occupational therapists, as well as cooperation among member state licensing bodies. We've done some of these before. I'm sure that you kind of remember some of the others that we've passed up here. There were no other possible floor amendments. There's many proponents to this bill. We did have a committee amendment, and this is the bill to insert the executive committee regarding the term of office for delegates of the commission. And the Kansas Board of Healing Arts said the enactment of the bill would increase the fee fund. This is not from the state general fund. This is the fee fund, which would include $65,500 for an analyst position. So they would also need $55,000 for the salary. And for that, I'll stand for questions.
For discussion, the chair recognizes Representative Ruiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the carrier of the bill, did a really good job of explaining the bill, and I ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative Steens, you may close.
Madam Chair, I move that when the body rises to report, the report HB 2533 favorably for passage as amended.
Without the as amended. You've heard the motion by Representative Steens to report House Bill 2533 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. For the last item up for business, we have House Bill 2478. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2478, the chair recognizes Representative Rivas.
Madam Chair, I rise before the body to present House Bill 2534. 2534 came to us from Health and Human Services Committee with amendments. I move adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion to adopt the committee report for House Bill 2534. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Representative, you may continue.
So I would like to Read the bill brief. 2534, as amended, would enact the Respiratory Care Interstate Compact. The compact's been enacted in 5 states: Alabama, Iowa, Montana, Washington, and Wisconsin. Compact's being considered in 11 states, including Kansas. Will become active once it's enacted by 7 states. The purpose of the compact is to facilitate the interstate practice of respiratory therapy with the goal of improving public access to respiratory therapy services and achieving a number of objectives to reduce administrative burdens while increasing mobility and availability of licensed respiratory therapists, as well as cooperation among member state licensing bodies. The proponents were the Kansas Adjutant General's Department, the Kansas Chamber of Commerce, and the U.S. Department of War. The conferees noted the portability of these services. It would enable their troops, military families, when they move, for the families to get employment easier. It's also supported by the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce, the Kansas Hospital Association, Kansas Respiratory Care Society, and several others. There were no opponents. There was no neutral testimony. And there is a fiscal note, but it is supported by the fee fund and nothing out of the state general fund. So, Madam Speaker, I move when the body rises to report, the report House Bill 2534 favorably for passage.
We're going to stand for questions first, Representative, if that's all right.
I was ready to go.
You're good. All right, to speak to the bill, the chair recognizes Representative Ruiz.
Give me kudos first. Thank you, Madam Chair. Kudos to the representative who explained House Bill 2534, and I ask for your vote.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative, now you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm hungry. Madam Speaker, I move that when the body rises to report, the report House Bill 2534 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Rivas to report House Bill 2534 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, now for the last item up for business, which is House Bill 2478. For the purposes of carrying House Bill 2478, the chair recognizes Representative Berquist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the last one. House Bill 2478 would require an applicant for becoming an advanced practice registered nurse or a CRNA, a nurse anesthetist, to submit to fingerprinting and a security national history report. And there were no opponents that testified in the committee. Proponents were, testimony was provided by the executive minister of the administrator of the board, who stated that generally this is statutory change was a result by the board's most recent Federal Bureau of Investigation audit, which brought this to light. Again, there were no opponents. There was no significant fiscal effect. The KBI says that on their side that the expenditures and the receipts pretty much zero out. And that the Board of Nursing says they have enough funds to cover their part. So I will stand for questions.
For discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes Representative Ruiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the carrier of the bill for a good explanation of the bill. And I ask for your yes vote on HB 2478.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative Berquist, you may close.
Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports 2478, House Bill 2478 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Berquist to report House Bill 2478 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. This concludes our general orders. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
Madam Chair, move we rise and report.
You've heard the motion to rise and report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Clerk will read the committee report.
Mr. Speaker, your committee of the whole recommends that House Bill 2466, 2487, 2478 be passed. House Bills 2243, 2533, 2534 be passed as amended.
Speaker recognizes Representative Laura Williams to adopt the committee of the whole report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion to adopt the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. Reports of standing committee, the clerk will read.
The Committee on Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development recommends substitute for SB 197 be amended as, and the bill be passed as amended. The Committee on Health and Human Services recommends HB 2364 be passed. The Committee on Health and Human Services recommends HB 2562 be passed. The Committee on Judiciary recommends HB 2535 be passed. The Committee on Transportation recommends HB 2585 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. The Committee on Transportation recommends HB 2220 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. The Committee on Judiciary recommends HB 2610 be passed. The Committee on Judiciary recommends HB 2519 be passed. The Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice recommends HB 2653 be passed and be placed on the consent calendar.
Is there any objection to returning to that order of business, introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions? Seeing no objection, the clerk will read.
House Bill 2771 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs requested by Ed Klump, an act concerning enforcement of United States immigration and enforcement detainers by a county sheriff operating a county jail. HB 2772 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs requested by Representative Riley, an act concerning consumer protection.
House Bill 2595 is withdrawn from the Committee on Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development, and referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. We have the following committee appointments. Kyle Hoffman to replace Representative Kyle Hoffman to replace Representative Pat Proctor on the House Committee on Insurance on Friday, February 13th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on the 13th. Representative Kyle Hoffman to replace Representative Fred Gardner on the House Committee on Health and Human Services on Tuesday, February 10th, and Wednesday, February 11th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on February 11th. Representative Cindy Neighbor replaces Representative Valdenia Nguyen on the House Committee on Education on Tuesday, February 10th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on the 10th. Representative Mike Amix replaces Representative Nguyen on the House Committee on K-12 Education Budget. This appointment expires at the end of the day on February 12th. Representative Joella Hoy replaces Representative Brandon Woodard on the House Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources on Tuesday, February 10th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on the 10th. Representative Casey O'Hobson replaces Representative Wanda Brownlee Page on the House Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources on Tuesday, February 10th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on Tuesday, the 10th. Representative Jerry Stogsdill replaces Representative Nguyen on the House Committee on Financial Institutions and Pensions on Wednesday, February 11th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on Wednesday, the 11th. Representative Cindy Neighbor replaces Representative Nguyen on the House Committee on Education on Thursday, February 12th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on the 12th. Are there announcements? Speaker recognizes Representative Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a reminder, room 142, tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. We'll have our Bible study. This time, the topic is on accountability. And again, this invitation is not only for legislators, bring your guests, bring your office assistants, lobbyists are even welcome. So anyone's welcome. 142 South, it'll be at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats, tomorrow we're going to have several bills up for view, and we're going to have agenda at 8:15 tomorrow morning, 8:15. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Sawyer Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Johnson County delegation members, there will be no Johnson County delegation lunch. Senators, man. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Orpeza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Wyandotte County Leavenworth delegation, we will have lunch today, room 152 South. Hope to see you there.
Speaker recognizes Representative Bergquist.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Local Government Committee will meet as we usually do on Wednesday, but we're also going to have the same time, same place on Friday. So we'll have Friday at 9 a.m. We'll have business to do. Want to get done as much as we can. And when we'll, of course, just for the record, we'll be in meeting on Monday as usual, so we'll be able to finish up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, the Speaker recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans, we will calendar tomorrow morning in the old Supreme Court at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn until Wednesday, February 11th at 11 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.